Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. This is Success with Srini.
It is now proven that the only way to change the quality of life is by asking good questions. And today on the podcast, I'm sharing with you 3 specific questions that anybody, doesn't matter who you are, what you do, if you ask, you're going to see your life transforming. My name is Srini Siripalli. This is Success with Srini. Happy Thursday morning to you. Welcome. Let's get started. Okay, 3 questions. I have been, as a student of self-improvement, I have been reading, studying, and I watch YouTube, and I listen to podcasts, and I consume all kinds of content. And I've seen people talk about the kind of questions that they are suggesting that you need to ask. I see questions like, what makes me happy? What is my passion? How should I be remembered? All kinds of questions. I think those questions are amazing. I think those questions have a place. But here are the 3 questions that I know for sure have changed my life because I live my life. I have suggested these questions to several of my coaching clients and several people who consulted with me. They have told me they have changed their lives. And again, interestingly, these questions are not mine. These are questions that I have studied. I don't know which book, but I did. So here they are. Number 1, before you step into any project, anything that you do, anything, small, big, doesn't matter, has multiple people working on the project, maybe you yourself alone, you're working on the project, doesn't matter. The first question you have to ask is, what is the initial value I bring to this project? What is my initial point of value? Question number 1. Question number 2. Once you are into it, like you have started working on, maybe, let's take an example. You want to lose weight and you're stepping in with this question, what's my initial point of value? I'm starting this. What's my value? My value today is this. I sleep less. I eat a lot. I don't drink water. I don't exercise at all. I don't even burn 1,000 calories a day. That's extreme, but you get the idea. So you establish the initial point of value. And now you start doing things. You start taking action. Your goal is to grow, and your goal is to change these values. Hence, you are getting outcomes. So as you start taking action, maybe a month or 2 or 3 down the road, you pause and you ask a question, what is my current point of value now that I'm doing something for a month or 2 or 3? Now the delta should be positive. Can't be negative. Should be positive. And if it's positive or negative, it doesn't matter, but you get the idea. Sometimes people go down before they come back up and all that. But it's important that you ask the question, wishing that it should be positive. But the question that you have to ask is, did I grow? So, in a nutshell, what's my initial point of value? What's my current point of value? And did I grow? Those are the 3 questions you have to ask. Now, I believe on May 23rd, if I get the date right, I did a podcast talking about the retrospect commit loop. And I'm going to leave a link to that podcast. If you're watching this on YouTube, on the top, I want you to watch that video. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm going to have that link inside the podcast notes. I want to listen to that podcast because I specifically talk about the kind of questions I ask so that I increase my commitment into the actions that I'm taking. That podcast is going to complement what I'm sharing with you right here, right now. Now, how do you establish the initial point of value across multiple different projects? Because I do many things. I'm sure you are doing many things. So you're a professional who is taking care of work. You may be a mom and a professional. You could be a dad, you could be a professional, or you could be a stay-home mom or stay-home dad taking care of things at home. So everything is a project and everything has an initial point of value before you're stepping in, and everything is going to have a final point of value as you step out. The question becomes is, how do you establish the starting point? Well, before you get into anything, there are only two things that you bring to the table. any project, two things you bring to the table. One, you step in as an asset, or you are stepping in as a liability. Maybe you are somewhere in between, leaning towards liability or leaning towards the asset. But if asset and liability are two endpoints on a straight line, you are kind of somewhere in between, but those are the two extreme points. Let's take asset and liability as discussion points for this podcast. As a part of asset, if you're starting out in your career, let's say, career is an example. You're starting out, you're an asset in terms of your desire, your willingness to do the job, the qualification that you have acquired, your focus, your commitment, your determination, all those things are assets. In terms of liability, you do not have the skills yet, and you do not have the experience yet. Okay, let's take that as liabilities. Now, with these two things, you step into a project. The project has its own life cycle, and there are things that you will be part of, and you as an individual will be doing a few things. Now, as that continues to happen, maybe a month or 2 or 3 down the road, let's say the project fails. The intended outcome was not there. There was a cancellation or there was a termination. Whatever it is, the project did not happen. Now, at the end, you look back, and at that point in time, you'll say, what is my current point of value? Now, did I increase my skills? Did I gain some experience? Did I gain some connections? What are the other things I gained as a part? And how many of my liabilities did I convert into an asset? And if you were able to successfully do that, you will know that means you had growth. That means you yourself were successful, regardless. Now, once you have gained the skills, experience, know-how, knowledge, connections, and all that, the newfound value will become your initial point of value as you step into subsequent projects. You get the idea now? Now, most of the times, an individual's value also depends on the circumstances they are in. Sometimes somebody loses a job, somebody loses some money, some business doesn't take off, some challenges, some circumstances. Circumstances do change the value of an individual, but usually temporarily. If you keep, again, your focus, your commitment, your desire, your willingness high, you would come back and reclaim your position. That's how this works. The key is this. The key is that you set goals and you work towards achieving the goals. So, I have a measure these days. Anything I do in the morning, I ask a question somewhere in the back of my mind, can I do this better? If I do it better, that means I have grown. Even the basic things, I ask myself, can I do this better? If I can do it better, then I've grown. If not, then, okay, it's just a repetition. Well, sometimes repetition also helps. It also inculcates growth. But that's a whole different thing for a different day we'll talk about. But you get the idea. Again, goal setting and working towards the goals is very important. I have already spoken that multiple times on this podcast. But then journaling also helps. If you keep on writing journals and you keep on, in a way, track your progress a little differently, so that you can look back and reflect upon and say, okay, I started here and this is how my emotional growth happened. This is how my financial growth happened. This is how my spiritual growth happened. And you start tracking this by reading, by going back and reading, and that further strengthens the growth that you are creating, and you'll evolve yourself as a better individual from everything that you're doing. Okay, hopefully this is helpful. If it is, do me a favor, you're watching this on YouTube, drop me a comment, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and you're listening to this on the podcast, then by all means, you can also do all of that, which is, read the podcast, write a review, and you can also share this podcast episode with a friend of yours or a family member. That's all for now. You have a question for me, you know how to reach me, 888-818-0404. Call in with your question, leave me a message. I'm going to respond to your question on this podcast. That's all for now. Wherever you are, be safe and remember to ask these 3 questions. Okay? Bye now.